they're real or not. So verified videos of the actual aircraft is the most useful thing.
And often when we see the videos of the aircraft, and then, in their defense, it's hard to capture the aircraft in the moment of dropping the bomb. So you see the aircraft, and then a few minutes later, there are people on the ground dying.
Yeah, no, I understand.
What is actually very helpful is photographic or video evidence of the munitions, particularly if there are large fragments which can be identified.
Michael, by the way, do we have people in Aleppo where the trucks were hit looking for the munitions evidence?
Yeah, I understand they are actually.
Can you make sure of that? Can we get that back to us in a sort of verifiable?
Yeah, so I just heard today the UN actually wants to start taking that on in an organized way to actually do some kind of a real team to go out and investigate it.
Well, they better jump on it before it all gets cleaned out of there.
And get the good people too. You can certainly tell if it's an advanced Russian munition.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, they've got to get right on it.
Yeah, and I think they are actually.
Would you check?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Who else?
I'm Dr. Mahmoud Mustafa from the Doctor Association. I prefer to continue in Arabic.
Okay.
هلا بعتذر إذا كلامي بيكون قاسي إنه أنا طبيعتي طبيب جراح يعني أو ممكن الشيء المر أو الشيء اللي شفناه التجربة اللي عشناها هي خلتنا شوي يكون هيك قلوبنا قاسية يعني نحن يعني أنا نحن مؤمنين إنه الكل متورط في النزاع في سوريا والكل جزء من الحل.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize if what I'm going to say is a bit harsh. I'm a surgeon by profession, and just from what I've seen and what we've experienced, our hearts have hardened. I believe that everyone is involved at this point in the Syrian crisis, but that also means that they're part of the solution.
يعني نحن على ثقة إنه يعني لازم يكون في هناك أكشنز يعني أكثر من الولايات المتحدة بخصوص الموضوع في سوريا يعني بخصوص الكريسيس في سوريا يعني نستغرب ليش الروس يعني واقفين بصف النظام بهي القوة ودول أصدقاء سوريا يعني نشوف يعني في تخليات عن الموقف اللي السنة الماضية اللي يعني كل سنة عن سنة عم نشوف هناك تراجع بقراراتهم أو تراجع بكلامهم يعني بالنهاية والكل بيعرف مين اللي بيخترق الهدنة يعني لسه بحاجة لفيديو أو بحاجة لتصوير أو لإثباتات لهذا الموضوع الكل الأمر واضح لكن بحب بس أأكد عن موضوع فك الحصار في مدينة حلب يعني الموضوع
I believe that we need more action by the U.S. On Syria. We're confused as to why Russia is so strongly siding with the regime, whereas we find the Friends of Syria, their positions or their rhetoric weakens year by year. The violators of the cessation of hostilities are clear. Do we still need video and photographic evidence on this?
الموضوع يعني مو مجرد كلام يعني لازم يكون في هناك تدخلات فعلية يعني خلق نوع من التوازن يعني مثل ما ذكرنا الروس واقفين بموقف قوي بجانب النظام بتدخلهم عسكري بقراراته بمجلس الأمم يعني نحن نتمنى يعني المعاملة بالمثل تقريبا يعني من الولايات المتحدة في هذا الخصوص.
And I also want to stress the point of the need to break the siege of Aleppo. I don't want to have to continue to talk about this. We need actual intervention. So I really feel that there needs to be a balance. As I mentioned, there's a very strong Russian position siding with the regime. whether it's through their military intervention or the decisions and votes that they take inside the Security Council, and we expect similar support from the U.S. and from our friends.
Can I just build on this point in particular about the Russians? Because we believe that there is a deep contradiction between the strategic objectives of the United States of America and the Russians in Syria. The Russians would love to see, as soon as possible in Syria, just only Bashar al-Assad from one side and ISIS from the other side, and destroy any kind of moderate opposition on the ground, and to put the world into the choice that you have to choose between Bashar al-Assad and ISIS. We do not understand, and this has been the case since 2012, since Geneva Communique. We do not understand how it can be expected from the Russians to change attitude and to behave differently and to come up to a strategy that has common objectives with the Americans and with the Syrians and with the international community to abide with the UNSC resolution.
Well, the problem is the Russians don't care about international law, and we do. And we don't have a basis, our lawyers tell us, unless we have a UN Security Council resolution, which the Russians can veto, and the Chinese, or unless we are under attack from the folks there, or unless we are invited in. Russia is invited in by the legitimate regime. Well, it's illegitimate normally, but by the regime. And so they were invited in, and we're not invited in. We're flying in airspace there where they can turn on the air defense, and we have a very different scene. The only reason they're letting us fly is because we're going after ISIL. If we were going after Assad, those air defenses, we'd have to take out all the air defenses. And we don't have a legal justification, frankly, for doing that, unless we stretch it way beyond the law on a humanitarian basis, which some people argue we should, by the way. But so far, American legal theory has not bought into the so-called right to protect. And we don't even have what we had in Kosovo, where we had a existing resolution and so forth, even though we went alone. So it's complicated. It's not easy. And we've been fighting. How many wars have we been fighting? We've been fighting in Afghanistan. We've been fighting in Iraq. We've been fighting, in the region for 14 years. And a lot of Americans don't believe that we should be fighting and sending young Americans over to die in another country. That's the problem. Congress won't vote to do it. And you can be mad at us, but what we're trying to do is help Syrians to fight for their own country. And we've been spending a lot of money, a lot of effort to try to help do this. So there's an opposition there. The opposition is doing very well. And Russia came in. That's a problem, I know, because we don't behave like Russia. It's just a different standard. So we're trying to see whether we can put to test whether Russia is serious about a political solution. And if they're not serious, then we will help the opposition more. But I don't think you're going to, I don't think that's particularly good for the citizens of Syria in the end, because it means more fighting.
Finally, I would like to add something about the practical point that now the world always focuses on the extremist Sunni groups fighting in Syria. And in Vienna Communique, when the agreement spoke about having a credible and non-sectarian governance in Syria, that was difficult to sell to the communities on the ground and to our fellows and to our activists, because it speaks only about the extremist Sunnis and ignores the extremist Shia fighters who are coming from Iran, from Hezbollah, and Lebanon, from Iraq and other areas.
Well, they're a terrorist organization. We've designated them a terrorist organization.
Yeah, but according to the Russian-American agreement, the airstrikes in Syria would be only against the extremist Sunnis.
Yeah, because the reason for that is that they have both basically declared war on us and are plotting against us. And Hezbollah is not plotting against us. Hezbollah is exclusively focused on Israel, whom they're not attacking now, and on Syria, where they are attacking in support of Assad. So it's
No, I entirely understand your position as representing the American interest, because these Shia groups, they do not attack the United States, of course. But how to make the majority of the Syrian people accept this approach?
I'm sorry, what?
How to make the Syrian people accept this argument that because Hezbollah or Fadl Abbas, the Iraqi and Iranian groups are not fighting the United States now, so they are not targeted by the attacks against terrorism in Syria. They kill Syrians.
They are targeted by the opposition. And we are arming. So, and training.
Okay, I will object to that, can I?
Sure.
I'm from Aleppo, and I'm a social media activist. So I worked for 6 campaigns over Aleppo in the last 6 years. Do you know how many there for Aleppo? How many social media campaigns asking for protection for Aleppo?
How many?
Maybe 1 or 2. In Aleppo we have 6. We have almost each 6 months we have 1. So it's not to me, convincing me it's a battle against ISIS is really hard. Because we lost Daria. Daria is like our sweetest romantic dream of the revolution. And we lost it last month. So what we are moving forward is another experience of Iraq, where ISIS is there controlling half of the country. Half of the population feel that it's an existent battle and their only exit with it will be ISIS. So I don't want this scenario for Syria. So we are arming people to fight for Syria? I don't think we are. I think in reality, we are not arming the right people enough. That's why we are losing Aleppo right now. And I don't want it to be here next year when we're going to discuss how we lost Aleppo and there is still Idlib and Raqqa. So in reality, there is not enough political and armed support to those who consider them moderate. I wish we had his friends, not because they don't respect the international law, but because they are his friends.
Well, let me ask you, Michael. I mean, I think we've been putting an extraordinary amount of arms in, haven't we?
Yeah, and I have to say, as you said, it's a double-edged sword because you give people the ability to defend themselves, but when you pump more weapons into a situation like Syria, it doesn't end well for Syrians because there's always somebody else that's willing to pump more weapons in for the other side. The armed groups in Syria get a lot of support, not just from the United States, but from other partners. And we've never said that
Qatar, Russia, Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, huge amount of weapons coming in, huge amount of money.
But pumping weapons in causes someone else to pump more weapons in, and you end up with Aleppo.
I mean, the reason Russia came in is because ISIL was getting stronger. Daesh was threatening the possibility of going to Damascus and so forth. And that's why Russia came in, because they didn't want a Daesh government. And they supported Assad. And we know that this was growing. We were watching. We saw that Daesh was growing in strength. And we thought Assad was threatened. We thought, however, we could probably manage, that Assad might then negotiate. Instead of negotiating, you got Assad. Now you got Putin to support him. So it's truly complicated. I mean, you know how complicated it is. You live in it. But for us politically, where